Rock and roll, strut and stroll. The 1980s was certainly an interesting time. My name is Emir, this is Victoire, and before we begin, I ask that you kindly subscribe to the channel, like, and share the videos. It helps us spread them so much further. Today's guest was part of that 1980s and 1990 alumni. He and a tag team partner revolutionized the world of professional wrestling. Sure, they had their ups and downs, but ultimately, both will go down in the annals of time for being a major contributing factor to the professional wrestling that we know today. Today's guest, everybody, the rocker, Marty Jannetty. Victoire. Victoire gives a special thanks to the EWF and Mr. Jesse Hernandez, as well as SoCal Wrestling TV. Find the app on Roku. California's own Clark's Nutrition and Natural Foods Market for all your organic produce, healthy foods, and supplement needs. California's own trusted tattoo company and mobile Body Art Bus, 760-645-0485. Are you looking to become a pro wrestler? Do you live near the San Diego area? If so, contact Primal Pro Wrestling, 619-971-1445. For all your professional wrestling memorabilia needs, visit the Wrestling Guy store, located in Huntington Park, California, and Phoenix, Arizona. If you'd like to order online, please do so by visiting thewrestlingguystore.com. Style, then look no further than one of Southern California's premier advertising magazines, Your Villa Magazine, 951-990-8855. Palm Springs, California, Indian Wells, California, Rancho Mirage, California. They are all considered a destination hotspot, a second home haven. With an exquisite record of negotiating the finest deals for clients, Lowell Folsom III and Associates always deliver. Contact Lowell today at 760-391-2504. And now, on with the show. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Victoire. Today, we are going to rock and roll, strut and stroll with one of the icons from professional wrestling in the 1980s and 1990s. Ladies and gentlemen, MJ is in the house. This is Marty Jannetty. Marty, welcome to Victoire.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Amir. You know, you can't help, maybe it's human nature, but when you hear that intro right there and they're talking about you, you can't help but smile inside out. Even if you're like, all right, don't be all cocky and arrogant. It ain't nothing about that. It's just like me.
Yeah.
I
Yes.
get that.
Yes. You do get that, Marty. You, along with the others, you helped entertain and inspire a generation. You traveled around the world, and I don't think, they often say you don't realize the impact you made personally. It's the others around you that will tell you what impact you made. And you, sir, were, just as I said, one of the icons of pro wrestling in the 1980s, 90s, and even in the 2000s, when you made your comeback there to WWE. But today, Marty, I want to share your life story with the viewers. I want to get back to,
Might not like some of it, but okay.
we might not like some of it. We'll, but we'll stay the positive that, the place that you're in right now. But for those who don't know, Marty, share a little bit about how you broke into the industry. Let's start there.
Well, I mean, I was in sports my whole life. In high school, got awards in wrestling, in football, in track. I wanted to play basketball, but mainly to stay in shape for football. Football was our main thing.
Yeah.
But I accidentally had a run in with the freshman year coach, and he didn't do well, so I got cut from the team. So, but it's okay because then I'm like, well, now what do? I got to stay in shape for football, next year.
Yeah.
So our school had just started wrestling, amateur wrestling. So I'm like, that's a good way to stay in shape. So the whole wrestling thing come from out of a mistake. I should never put my hands on the coach. The coach should never say what he said about my dad either.
Yeah.
But Yeah, it's like it was, like they say, sometimes you turn a negative into a positive.
Yeah.
And that's what happened. Now, did I know my freshman year in high school that this is going to lead you to professional wrestling? Not at all. I was just staying in shape for football. And
Yeah.
then I got pretty good at it and I liked it. And when it came time for college, I had a lot of colleges had heard about the thing with the coach. You can't be. I guess coaches they're not out of bounds on anything.
Right.
Actually, this coach was so bad that my wrestling coach said, "I heard what you did, and I'm glad." He hugged me for for what. Um, but it doesn't go away when you put your hands on a coach.
Mhm.
Colleges are like, no, I guess.
Yeah.
Because my thing was I wanted to play football. I was decent and very good at kicking, but I got several major colleges. I won't say Auburn University, but I had several major ones
Mhm.
approach me for kicking. But I
Mhm.
wanted to play linebacker too. I wanted to play more than just kicking.
Yeah.
And in college, they were like, "No, we want our kickers only to kick." So I was like, "No, I won't be a part of this."
Yeah.
And so it ended up that I didn't have anything because I thought somebody would get me.
Yeah.
And then finally, this coach that came from up north, wrestling coach that was nobody heard of,
Mhm.
but he came over to this school that had a horrible wrestling program in
Mhm.
college, and they were 0-10 the year before he came there, and he went around and scraped up everything he could get that was left over,
Yeah.
and basically, we were called the misfits, the last things. Nobody wanted these guys, and not necessarily because we weren't good,
Mhm.
but because we had some issues out in our personal life.
Yeah.
And he took that team of misfits,
Mhm.
and we were man, we won. I think we were like in dual meets and tri meets. We were like I don't know exact number our first year,
Mhm.
like 15-1 or two, whatever it might have been.
Mhm.
Um, this came out of a team that was 0-10 last year.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
this coach made the difference
Yeah.
because at that time down south, the wrestling in high school at the high school level wasn't a big deal,
Okay.
and it's huge up north.
Yeah.
And here come a northern guy, and that's what they said too. Who's this Yankee coming down here? Look what he did. Our
Yeah.
second year, we were kicking ass. We were ranked as high as number 8 in the nation,
That's good.
um,
Yeah.
and did really well. After to my third year, the South started. I think it was called not Cat Chapter 9 or something where they had to add a girls sport
Mhm.
or drop a guy sport.
Okay.
And wrestling wasn't making money, generating any big income, so the guys wrestling went away.
Yeah.
And I tried to go over to some of the schools where I beat their guys and thought, oh, this is a walk in. They're like, oh, we'd love to have you, Marty, but we're dropping the program too.
Yeah.
So now I'm sitting there like, well, I'll go try to play football, walk on, and oh boy, walking on, you're last on the list. You're a
Yeah.
scrub. You start from the scrub.
Right.
And me and one of my best friends, Wakita, Mike Watford, Wakita Underlay would call him. Him and I went to Troy. Back then it was Troy State. It's Troy University now.
Mhm.
And we could see that we were good as their starters.
Yeah.
But as walk-ons, you're the last to get to come on the field and show what you got.
Yeah.
I kept telling Wakita, because we'd stand on the sidelines the whole time.
Uh-huh.
The pullover jersey
Yeah.
comes down like 3/4 of the way, and you got that's about this much between the pants and
Yeah.
the jersey, and then the socks come up, and then the pants come. There's about that. I was getting sunburned. We were getting sunburned right there, that little stripe, and on our legs, and I was like, man, I ain't walking around like a half zebra. I'm not even a full zebra. I got a stripe here, a stripe. Nah, man, hell with this. So then I was left with, now what do I do?
Right.
In life,
Yeah.
and I took up. One of my friends, his dad owned North American locally, local branch of van lines, and I started driving a truck, tractor trailer truck.
Mhm.
and I was driving a lot of miles and then get there and get out and take 20, 30, 40,000 pounds of furniture out and move it upstairs, downstairs, to wherever they wanted it.
Yeah.
And Jerry Oates was a local wrestler that had done pretty good. And he had a little wrestling school at the gym I worked out at. And he had suggested to me, he goes, "Hey, man, can we train you for wrestling?" And I'm like, back then, we were like, when you're amateur style, it's way different now. Back then, I wouldn't put it down because I still enjoyed it. I knew it was entertainment, right?
Yeah.
But internally, we're thinking, no, I do the real thing. I can't go do the clown.
Right.
That's the way I thought. Yeah, I mean, now with Kurt Angles and all that, it's way different. Shelton Benjamins and all the guys that, Gable, all the guys now that have come over from college. Now it's just a next transition.
Right.
But not back then. So, it was like, no, man, I'll take my chances. But when he would tell me stories of how they would drive so far they can get out and wrestle, and I thought, man, I'm driving this truck 7 hours one way. And then I got to get out and unload all that furniture.
Yeah.
They're going that same distance, getting out and getting in the ring and having fun with each other. But that's the way I looked at it.
Yeah.
I mean, they're still working.
Yeah.
But I was thinking, I mean, even if it makes the same amount of money, because I didn't know they wouldn't get much money when you first start out.
Right.
I was thinking, let me see, drive a truck, get there and unload furniture.
Yeah.
Drive a car, get there and wrestle one of my buddies.
Right.
I'll give the wrestling a chance.
Makes sense.
Yep. And, Jerry trained me and, I learned pretty fast. And he shipped me right off to Harley Races territory out in the Central States. And I did pretty good and just kept climbing, and that's pretty much how it all started with that.
Yeah. What an incredible journey. Like happenstance. Because you see a lot of the guys today, Marty, they're inspired by seeing guys like you. So they get in because they're fans. So you got in, you weren't necessarily a fan. So you were kind of shielded from all of that. You weren't starstruck or anything when you first came.
No. And I was a fan of certain guys I watched, like my dad loved it. And I loved my dad because he was my hero. Growing up, another thing that, had me into sports was, I mean, we had the misfortune of not having money at all. But as a kid growing up, and seeing my dad went to Michigan State and had all kinds of trophies for football and baseball, two sports star. And I'm seeing all these trophies, shiny, big trophies. And I'm looking at him, holding him. He was a very intelligent man. He's pointing, he goes, "Look up there on the wall. There were plaques for academic awards he's got."
Wow.
And I'm like, "Oh, that's nice." But somehow as a kid, there's big shiny trophies, what you're looking at. You're not worried with, I don't want one of those. I want one of these.
Right.
But he kept me, with grades and being smart. Man, he wouldn't let me be stupid. I mean, I am now, but she's not around. but he and hard work, man. He inspired me with the hard work, which that would be the one thing that, I do seminars in wrestling schools, and I try to instill that in my kids is the harder you work, the harder it is to lose. You're not going to go wrong by hard work. I mean, if you got it, you got it. If you don't, you don't. That's nothing you can do. They call it the it factor. There's nothing you can do about that. That's you either got it or you don't. But hard work will get you over what you don't have.
Right. Absolutely.
And so that was one thing he instilled in me, and all my coaches from high school throughout college would say Marty was the hardest worker on the team, which I know that don't sound like much, but it meant the world to me. Because, and I didn't even realize that. I think the one thing you said a while ago is when you're going through it, you're just going through it. You don't recognize it. Right. When I was training, I'm doing what I got to do. I don't recognize I'm training harder than anybody on the team. That wasn't the goal. Another thing I tried to teach my kids is to let your competition be you. Don't compete against Stone Cold. Don't compete against John Cena. Don't compete against any other guy. Outdo yourself every day. Because if you can beat yourself every day, you're climbing. And that's the best you can ask of yourself. And if it don't make it to where you want to be, you still did the best you could do.
Yeah.
Um,
And I think then you can still carry that on into other aspects of your life. Because if
right.
you know you've done your best and you've overcome something that you're dealing with, then you can overcome something else. So it's
Yeah.
never lost, you know.
Yeah.
Um,
It's, I've always felt like the things that sports parallels life. What you learn in sports um, will apply to life. You know, the harder you work, the harder it is to fail.
yeah.
Um, you know, there's very little in sports that you learn like that
Hmm.
that doesn't apply to life. Same thing, same principle.
Hmm.
It's just a matter of recognizing it.
Well, almost like again, you mentioned your training. You love to train physically. So I presume, yeah, a little bit of bodybuilding when you first started. Was that the inspiration? Were you inspired?
No, I do wasn't bodybuilding because that didn't interest me. A lot of my friends were, and I supported them.
Yeah.
But that didn't really interest me. But
Hmm.
I did want to be as good as I could be in sports, which meant get stronger.
Yeah.
Get do everything you can to be that next level than what
Yeah.
you are now.
Yeah.
Like I said, always beat yourself
Yeah.
and getting
Yeah.
in the gym and working out hard. And now it's a lot of cardio. Back then it was just hit the weights, get strong, get strong,
Yeah.
get strong. So you push somebody down or
Yeah.
punch them out.
Yeah. Yeah. It definitely is. That's the young men's mentality, of course, right there.
Yeah.
So, but when you were working, because obviously you must have pushed really hard, because you come into this industry, you go and train with Harley Race. Did you have to take another job at the time to still support yourself, or were you making enough on the independence?
When I've heard all the horror stories, trust me. The guys traveling 3,000 miles a week and making $50 a night. And we were doing that. We were going 3,000 miles a week. We were coming close, probably 2,500, but we were making, some towns were 50s. Yeah, 50 was like a minimum when I
Hmm.
started.
Hmm.
But then you had your hundreds, 150s here and there. St. Louis and a couple other cities who made up for the week. I'll put it this way: when I was driving for North American Van Lines, my biggest check was $400
Yeah.
for a week. This you got to remember, this is back in '83 ish.
Okay.
So a $400 check back then was like a 400. We're now with Biden in their $401 check. But oh boy, you might have to add that. I just got myself in
You're
trouble.
fine. You're absolutely fine to add that, Marty. No
No,
problem.
I'm in trouble. I just lost 10,000 fans.
No, you didn't. Trust me. You probably
But
get.
but for whatever the pay scale was there,
Mhm.
then a $400 check for driving. Oh my God! And fighting furniture and going upstairs. I hated the worst was the ladies. Especially we had a military contract,
Mhm.
and those were bossy ladies. The wives of the people serving.
Yeah.
You're supposed to go in, take the furniture where they tell you, set it down, and that's it.
Yeah.
But if you're going to be a nice guy and you take it and set it down, big old heavy oak dresser, set it down, and she goes, no, move it over a little bit. Okay, move it over a little bit.
Yeah.
No, take it that side again.
Yeah.
It's like, so after going through that all day, every day,
Yeah.
then got into wrestling and went out to Kansas City and did the first week.
Mhm.
And I might even, no, I don't have it because I wasn't expecting to use it. My first paycheck, it was just 6 days, and I had so much fun because I loved wrestling
Yeah.
and simulated, which it ain't simulated. It's it's some of the guys put it. It's acting with a lot of pain. um, but you do got to be athletic, especially today. Now, back in my day, it was big bruiser,
Mhm.
beer belly, cigar smoking, bam, kick them, boom, boom.
Really.
Now you got athletes doing triple flips off the top rope.
Yeah.
But at first paycheck for having fun, and I didn't know the ladies was going to be a part of it. The perks when you go to these towns, you got ladies everywhere.
Yeah.
So I mean, I'm in heaven, and I got paid. And they give me a check. I think it was first check was $450,
Oh, wow.
which was 50 more than the best check I ever got for doing the truck.
Yeah.
So I'm not complaining.
Yeah. Yeah.
Some of the guys complain, but I'm good.
Yeah. No, that's a good paycheck to begin with, especially in the 1980s.
Well, it
That was.
was a pretty good territory though. They were back then there was territories where you had a city every night, not once in a month or once every 2 or 3 months.
Hmm.
Our schedule, I remember it because I did it for I think over a year.
Yeah.
We had Wichita. We lived in Kansas City,
Okay.
which I loved, even though it's the weirdest place I've ever seen. You're right downtown.
Uh-huh.
The place where I was staying, the hotel I was staying, because they had monthly rates,
Uh-huh.
right downtown Kansas City. Big
Yeah.
old buildings and all this.
Yeah.
Get in your car and go 1 block over. There's a big old pasture with cows out in it. I have never seen another city in America, anywhere actually, anywhere. You were talking about the UK flag, the
Yeah.
British flag. I even over there, there's close.
It's
There's
close, but not like that.
yeah, but I mean, I loved it. It was my getting away from home and seeing the world thing. That's why I loved it. We had
Yeah.
Wichita, which was a 4 hour drive one way, on Monday nights. Tuesday nights, an hour drive, according to how you drive, of course.
Oh yeah.
Was Topeka, Kansas. Wednesday night was Lincoln, Nebraska. And I was seeing all these capitals of states too.
Yeah.
I'm just stuck in Georgia, Atlanta, and, Columbus, where I'm from.
Yeah.
And now I'm going to seeing the capitals of these different states. I'm like, wow, this is great.
Yeah.
Thursday was Des Moines, Iowa.
Yeah.
Friday, every other Friday was St. Louis, and that was the big show. That's where you got the bigger dollars.
Okay.
And then Saturday and Sunday would be like what they call spot shows. Saturday would be something near St. Louis, and
Mhm.
Sunday would be something near Kansas City. So you were working 7 days a week.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I mean, you wanted to anyway because you don't get paid when you're sitting in the hotel.
Right. Exactly. You got to keep active. When you were doing that, so how did you have a character at that time? Were you Marty Jannetty, or were the character gimmicks sort of a thing on the
That
independents?
I got lucky my whole career. I'll say that because when I came in, and I'm laughing at Ricky Morton right now because the Rock and Roll Express were already around,
Right.
and they were so good, so popular that every promotion was trying to imitate,
Mhm.
you know. And when I came in, and I wasn't, I'm all about the partying and chasing the girls, and I'm seeing, oh my God, this is like shooting fish in a barrel, can't miss, So I'm thinking that way instead of, being into what I'm supposed to be, doing.
Yeah.
And so they give us this character, me and a guy named Tommy Rogers, not
Mhm.
the original, not the one with Fantastics, I think, but Tommy Lane, who later became Rock and Roll RPMs. There were so many spinoffs of the Rock and Roll Express.
Yeah.
But they told us, well, we want y'all to be Uptown Boys.
Okay.
Right? I'm like, what's the Uptown Boy? But they said, well, you're fancy, tassels hanging everywhere. And I'm thinking Uptown Boys like a rich, the kids I hated in school,
Right.
rich
Yeah.
kids.
Yeah.
You gonna ask me to do that?
Yeah.
but it showed us some ideas like with streamers hanging and leg ties and all.
Uh,
And I didn't even think, oh, like Rock and Roll Express. I didn't even think that. I was just like happy to get used.
yeah.
I'm just starting. It's my rookie year.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, let's do it.
Yeah.
Throw that stuff on. And it took a minute, because brand new,
Mhm.
brand new in the business.
Mhm.
And you get a break like that where you're not having to, what they used to call job out.
Mhm.
And I hate that term, but, it's what they used to call it.
Mhm.
But not having to go through all that, just right into a character. We did pretty good. And as we got better and better, Harley was noticing. He was the one that mattered. Bob Geigel too, but Harley was the main guy you needed to, show.
Yeah. Yeah.
And there was one of my favorite stories with Harley's. One night, he took a liking to me because I was trained by Jerry Olson, which is very old school. So
Okay.
I had a lot of old school mentality, which some of the newer guys coming in didn't.
Mhm.
Even back then, they were all about the flash. So one night he has a strap match, because I studied him. Jerry told me too. He says, you watch Harley, you'll learn from Harley. So I'm watching the strap match. I think it was Sheik Abdullah he was at it with, and the match was over, and I thought it was okay. I was like, not much learned though. But he comes back and goes to the shower, and I'm getting dressed. I already wrestled, so I'm getting dressed. And I hear this I'm like, what? And he's in the shower. I'm like, what the fuck's he doing? Oh, sorry about the language. What the heck is he doing? And you don't want to stick your head in the shower, guys, you're naked.
Right,
So I'm like,
right.
I don't want to holler around the corner. So I'm like, Harley, are you okay?
Yeah.
And he's sitting there with his belt, lassoing himself on the back.
Gosh.
And I'm like, what are you doing? You okay?
Yeah.
He goes, I just had a strap match. How do I go home? I got family over and explain I have no marks on me.
Man, that's intense. Wow. Gosh, man.
Yeah, I mean, he won me, and the fact that I noticed, he liked me even more. And he got me into Japan with him. My
Mhm.
rookie season was first back then, the first rookie to ever hit Japan. Even the Road Warriors were a year or a day or something. But yeah, but once they showed up, they took over.
Yeah, yeah,
But yeah, man, the beginning set the tone for the end. Yeah, it was just always get better and better and better. But then I started getting better and better and better at partying too.
yeah, yeah,
And so the two don't go together. Hard work,
right.
you build up a wall,
Yeah,
partying, you run right through it. You build it back up, you're
yeah,
partying, you run right through it again. And it's just over and over and over.
yeah.
And I guess it becomes a matter of which is more fun. Yeah, I
Wow.
mean, building a wall, I've never had a problem. Building up a big strong wall, I've
Yeah.
never had a problem with hard work,
Hmm.
but I never had a problem with partying either.
Right. So you've got
But
the intensity on both ends. So you
yes,
got to find that balance in between to say, okay, well, I can do this, but which has the longevity, I guess would be the question, Marty. The
with
longevity will be the legacy that you leave. So that would be the stronger one out of the two.
I
To find,
mean, and I know I made mistakes. I don't deny that. And the mistakes would be partying so hard. Al Snow, who's a great guy, about the most honest and level-headed guy you can never meet in this industry. There's a lot, but he's my favorite.
yeah.
Um, we used to, when we were the New Rockers, we would drive around and we would, from town to town, and we, discuss things. He's one of the first guys that I tagged with that I learned from as much as he learned from me.
Hmm.
And he said that on several interviews. We learned from each other.
Yeah.
All the other guys, I was sort of a teacher, which I didn't mind. I love that too, including, I always say Shawn Michaels was my best student ever. The
Yeah.
1, 2, 3 kid, and then Bob Holly, and
Yeah.
yeah, but with Al, we learned from each other.
Yeah.
And he used to tell me, so you got to pick one. And I said, I don't think so. He says, well, which one would you rather do? I said, I'm going to do them both. I'm going to defy odds and do them both. And he just said, that's never going to
Right.
happen. But I chose to try to make him wrong.
Yeah.
And guess what? Guess who was right in the end?
Yeah. Yeah. But but going back there, Marty, let's go back a little bit now to the formation, because obviously everybody knows you primarily for the Rockers with Shawn Michaels. So how did that come about? Because it seemed like when I remember when you guys came out in WWF, it seemed like you were almost like brothers to young kids seeing you guys. So the connection must have been pretty strong between the two of you, right? Friendship.
Yeah, we when I was in the Kansas City area, they had brought him through from Texas. He had started in Texas. We had the same amount of time, like 6 months in the business when we first met in Kansas City. And they came up to me and a friend of mine named Dave Peterson, DJ Peterson, great guy, best friend I ever had in my life. He died in '94, so I've been without him since. Uh, I'm crying now, but they came to us and because we were, they knew we were the partiers, and Sean at the time was 19, I think.
Yeah.
And what 19-year-olds do. So they come up to us and, hey, you guys look out for this guy, Shawn Michaels. And we're like, sure. But we're looking at each other like, why didn't y'all roll us out the red carpet when we came here? What the
Right.
hell's this about? And so we did, and he loved the partying with us. He was right there with us. The only problem is when we'd go to St. Louis in particular, and all the wrestlers, especially the veterans, know the Marriott a bar up top. But after the St. Louis Kiel Auditorium days, you go up there and everything's just waiting on you, and I mean everything.
Okay.
And but Sean couldn't get in; he was underage, So we tell him just wait down here. We'll come down, bring you stuff.
Yeah.
First we would bring him beers, because he couldn't get beer. Bringing beers down there, which I guess we could go to jail for that, contributing to a
Yeah.
minor. And then we would get girls and bring down to him. And I can't,
Yeah.
I can't say that because I think he might have been dating somebody then. So act like that wasn't said. Unhear that, everybody.
I'm here.
But
That.
yeah, man, that's and then so there was you were asking how we ever hooked up to start with.
Yeah.
They needed a match because I think it was Mike George something went wrong, got injured or something other that they had to throw a tag match together. And they asked Sean and I, said, hey, you two guys, just do it together like that. You two
Yeah.
guys go in there and wrestle the American Starship, which was Danny Spivey and Scott Hall.
Okay.
And they were monsters. Danny was like 6'8".
Yeah.
Scott was 6'7", 6'6", and just ripped, muscular, big. And here we were, combined weight of 425 pounds. But so we went out there and had our first tag match together. And when he would be in the ring, I would see things. I would think it like he's right there in position to do something, and then he would do it. And I'm like, wow, that's pretty good. And then the second thing would happen to where like he needs to dive under, come tag me, and he'd do it. Like that's pretty good.
Yeah.
And then afterwards, as we're going back, I didn't know that he was thinking the same thing. As he was watching me in the ring, he was thinking Marty should do this or he could do that.
Mhm.
And he said I would do it.
Mhm.
But when we were coming back from the ring, I remember him looking at me, goes, did you feel something there?
Mhm.
I'm like, yeah. He goes, it was different. And I guess that's that chemistry.
Yeah.
And sometimes you become a oneness, and that's something you can't teach either.
Mhm.
That's going all into Zen Buddhism stuff, becoming one with everything.
Wow.
But that is what a good tag team does. They become a one unit.
Yeah.
You become one, and in good matches, the referee and the guys in the ring all become one.
Mhm.
Then they wanted me to come up to AWA after the Japan thing. I made a pretty good showing over there.
Mhm.
The AWA come calling, and I loved where I was at,
Yeah.
but they had ESPN TV, so I was getting national exposure, and they're going from
Right.
coast to coast, Baltimore to California, San Francisco, to all these places that I'd never been,
Yeah.
And it was a move up. Like I said, it was national TV and actually international. ESPN went, the countries too.
Mhm.
So it's funny, that was my first lesson in wrestling when I went to leave, and I was very respectful about it and told them, hey, I'm gonna go here. I'm gonna miss y'all. Thank y'all so much for how y'all, let me learn the craft here and been good to me. Thank y'all. I love y'all.
Mhm.
And then Bob Geiger goes, well, how about we give you a guarantee?
Yeah.
And I'm like, how much? And he's like, it's 800 a week.
Mhm.
I was sitting, and I looked, I said, so you could have done that the whole damn time.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
So that was my first lesson. And then I was, like I said, I thanked him again. I said, now I'm going to go up there. I want to keep climbing the ladder.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so when I got there, they were like, after I was starting to get over in singles.
Okay.
And even Sean said that. He goes, why'd they tag you? You was already getting over with everybody. But they wanted a tag match. You know what they wanted to do?
Well.
Some kind of rock and roll upbeat gimmick. Once again, Hurricane Robert.
Yeah.
But yeah, they asked me to have anybody that I would like to tag with, and I thought about Sean because of that tag match.
Mhm.
And I said, "What is this guy Shawn Michaels I tagged with one time?"
Mhm.
And they said, "Yeah, we've heard about him. Let's look into it."
Mhm.
And they called and they got, he's glad to come up. So they threw us together.
Yeah.
We became the Midnight Rockers,
Yes. I remember.
and wearing tassels. It was a rock and roll gimmick,
Yeah.
Again, being oblivious to what Ricky and Robert might be thinking. I'm just happy I'm doing good. I'm
Yeah.
not thinking like, they're going to be mad as shit.
Yeah.
In hindsight, of course, I could see how they felt, but
Yeah.
at the time, I'm looking at, "Yeah, man, I'm doing good.
Yeah,
This is great."
yeah,
But where I got lucky with it, I said I've been blessed my whole life. Come
mm,
in with the Uptown Boys and we became the Midnight Rockers there. And we got over huge
yeah,
in AWA,
yeah.
and then the WWF at the time,
Mhm.
soon to be WWE, not soon to be, but WWE, and had to we couldn't take the Midnight Rockers name was trademarked, so we had to go with Rockers.
It's the Rockers. Yeah,
So basically, my whole career was my own personality
yeah.
because I was a big rock and roll kind of guy.
Hmm.
The lifestyle. I mean, I love all music except I have a hard time with country, but and I mean nothing against Taylor Swift or anybody else. She's not that country,
Yeah.
but you want to get some more hate mail.
It's a
But I was lucky enough because it wasn't a hard character for me to. When they give you a character,
Mm,
um, Vince is the expert at it. Vince is so great. He'll come sit you down and talk to you for a little bit,
mhm.
or some questions, some tricky ones, and watch how you respond. And he'll say, "Okay, you're the Duke, the Judge, Dumpster Rosie, or
Right.
something that fits their personality."
Yeah.
Remember he had to come out with a trash can. I don't know how it came to that, but because the reason being, when you get in the ring and you're doing a character, if it's your own personality with the volume just turned way up,
Right.
you're going to be better at that than something you know nothing about. And a good example with Goldust, if you remember with Dustin
Yeah.
Rhodes,
Yeah.
and him and I were road buddies. Uh, he came up to me and goes, "Man, I got to work with you." They'd always give me, the guy, the new character to help get it over,
Yeah.
which I guess means you're a good worker, but it also means you're getting beat.
Right. Right.
but
Bittersweet.
which is not a big deal. So if you're not going anywhere right now,
Yeah.
but he'd come to me like, "I don't know what they want." And I'm like, "Bro, I'll be honest with you, I don't either." I mean,
Yeah.
excuse the terminology here, because I mean, I got a lot of LGBTQ, LYZ friends. Um, but I told him, I said, it's a gay as hell character.
Yeah.
And that is actually what they wanted. That's what they wanted, like a Hollywood,
Yeah.
one of them statue trophies come to life.
Yep. Yep.
Um, and,
But
and
Marty, I think you'll agree. I mean, I remember that. That was in your house 4 when
yes,
you it's Gold Dust.
yes.
And 96 or 95, one of the two, one of the years. But yeah, but his character was, I mean, it was incredibly done. But you're right, only he could have pulled that off.
Well, it took a while. I mean, he was so uncomfortable with it, but he kept trying. To his credit, he
Yeah.
kept on adjusting and kept on adjusting. And then he got started doing funny stuff and then doing Tourette's things with it, and
Yeah.
he turned it into a fun character to watch.
Yep.
But oh my God, he was scared to death at first, and I was scared to death because we're both going to lose our jobs. You don't know how to do this character, and I don't know how to get it over.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Because and that was an interesting time to debut something like that too. The world was
Yes,
not
it was.
today. So
Yeah,
it was
there's
very
behind the scenes reasons, but I ain't touching that.
okay. No, don't touch that. We won't go there. But going back then to your story with Sean now. So WWF, when they come knocking, and first of all, you said something earlier and I didn't acknowledge it. You said something, oh, you're not very smart. You said that about yourself, but Marty, you are. So I just want to acknowledge that. I heard you say that. You kept talking, so I didn't get a chance, but no, you are very smart, Marty. Don't talk down on yourself. But
Well, I could always compare myself to my father, my dad.
mm,
I don't think I've ever called him father before. My
yeah,
dad, because, like I said, he graduated third highest grade in his class in Michigan State. Football hero too. So I always looked up to him and wanted to emulate him and be like him. And that's my whole life. That's all.
yeah, yeah,
That's all I wanted to do was
yeah.
impress him. Make him happy.
Well, I'm pretty sure, Marty, with the career that you led, like I said at the top of the show, you don't realize the impact you made on a lot of children around the world. My man, you brought a lot of joy to kids with your energy and your color and your what you guys did in the ring. You were tag team specialists, as I believe Gorilla Monsoon used to constantly say on the microphone there. So I just want to, and again, as someone, Marty, one of the reasons I did create this show was to acknowledge you guys and say thank you. For me, it's a way of saying thank you for inspiring me to create something of worth that you guys can be proud of, sharing your story. So understand that.
I
You
appreciate
know,
that,
a
Amir.
lot
I
of the
mean,
fans are very proud of what you did, and you're the your style and everything is definitely a big reason why the business is today. So yeah, I'll just say that just because
thank
I
you.
want that positivity
That's
to
greatly appreciated.
yeah.
And are we towards the end of the show?
Not yet.
Okay, good. I thought that was a close up.
No,
Thank
we're
you
not
for
close.
that. I
We're
wanted
just
what right where you said that one of the most special things in my life
mhm,
ever was I'm trying not to cry because it's emotional sometimes,
yeah,
silliness. Um, when my father passed away, my dad, I hate that father.
yeah.
When my dad passed away, it was hard to go to the funeral because you didn't want to see him in a box. And I had to wait till last. I couldn't see him with everybody else in the room, like for the viewing thing, because I just thought it was so phony. All the people that didn't ever come around while it's alive, while
Mhm,
they're here now.
mhm,
And I remember my brother finally said, go ahead, it's your turn. Knowing that I didn't want nobody else in the room.
mhm.
That it was so weird, man. I couldn't even. I could see the open casket.
Yeah.
I guess he had that Italian nose, just his nose was sticking over it. And that's, man, I couldn't walk straight up to it. I mean, I turned my head and walked sideways and come back, zigzagging. And then I'd look and I'd turn. I'm like, man, I can't, I
Mhm.
didn't want to see him there.
All right.
But I finally, got to him and
Mhm,
said my last words. And at the, funeral end or the viewing end, I went outside and a couple of my buddies, from high school and our little crew, um, had said something to me that meant the world. Yeah, I need to pinch myself, hit myself in the head, or I will cry. But
yeah.
they said, Marty, when you went on the road for wrestling,
Mhm,
we used to go see your dad still, because everybody loved my dad. They'd go see him and hang out with him for a little bit, And they said, you had the most special thing that all of us wish we had, which I had a bad upbringing, not because of him, but just, our situation.
mhm,
But I said, what did I have that y'all didn't?
mhm,
And they said, we all knew your dad was your hero,
mhm.
but did you know you were his too?
Yeah. 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 Yep.
And probably, yeah, sorry,
Sorry.
might want to cut this part out. But yeah, of all the things I've accomplished,
Mhm,
nothing will ever top that.
mhm.
Not even with Swaggy, my cat.
Yeah.
Sorry about that.
That's okay, Marty. It's it's being real, you know. You can't, oftentimes we put up a facade and we try and be tougher, and I think that is a road to disaster ultimately, because if you suppress an emotion and a feeling, it's only going to build up. So, you it sounds like you had a wonderful wonderful dad, who was very proud of you. And I know, with the things that you did on screen, on TV, and the fact that you put in so much effort. I mean, you were battling other things, but you still showed up. You still came to work. You
Yeah,
still did
that
it,
it did.
and you still did it, and you still helped a lot of people and inspired a lot of people. So, I know, if he'd have been with you and seen that, he would have been extremely proud, as what he was, like your friend said. So, but Marty, let's go to the WWF now. Let's
Okay.
talk about that part of the story now. So you and Sean get scouted from
Yeah.
the AWA, and you're now the Rockers. So now
Yeah.
you find yourself in a locker room filled with giants.
Yeah.
And
Scared to death, man. We was like, what are we doing here?
right, you were probably the original high flyers, right? You were the original, because most of the guys were about 230, 50 at the time. Am I right? Or were there other guys that
More than that.
yeah.
Well, now to give Ricky and Robert their credit, they did a combo tag stuff.
Mhm.
Like drop down, drop kicks, hip toss, drop elbow, stuff like that that we did.
Yeah.
Not because they did, but we tried to come up with you had to do that when you were smaller because
Mhm.
punch and kick is not going to work against 300 pounders when you're 220.
Right.
When we walked in the back door for the first time at WWF at the time, the first 5 or 6 people we saw, imagine this now, you're 225 pounds, 5'11", Sean 6 foot. And you see, not in disorder, but you see Big John Studd, who's 6'9", one man gang, which is 6'8". Hulk Hogan walks by, and we've seen him on TV, and I've never met him in person. He's like huge, 6'6", and just 300 something pounds of muscle.
Yeah.
Even a little bitty King Kong Bundy at 6'4", 400 pounds walked by.
Yeah.
And I looked at Sean. I said, "Man, what are we doing here? Let's go." And he's like, "Oh no, let's give it a chance."
Yeah.
As if that wasn't bad enough. All the dressing rooms were full. It was TV taping day. All the dressing rooms full. So the new guys and the extras, which they used to call jobbers, and I despise that term.
Yeah.
Extras, just like in TV land, they call it extras. Acting world. We're on the outside getting dressed out there, and so you kind of look and make sure the girls, from production are coming by. Coast is clear. And like, hurry up and get dressed. And I hear, "Brother, do you mind?"
Yeah.
It is just coming around the curve was Macho Man and Elizabeth. And I grabbed Sean. I said, "Let's go, man."
Yeah.
This is not even day one.
Man.
But that was our introduction, and it was like they called it the land of giants. I mean, everybody was 6'6", 280, muscled up.
Yeah.
So we had to continue to learn. We'd go to the ring early when we get to the shows. And what if I did this and reversed it, and just this and that and the other thing. Also, what we would do is get action figures. Sherry Martell caught us doing it one time, and she told the story. She said, "I thought they were playing with dolls. They had like action figures playing with them."
Yeah.
And I thought, how kind of weird is that? These two wrestling guys. She goes, but then I watched them, and we would take the dolls, action figures, and do moves with them, and then go out in the ring if it looked like, "Oh, that'd look good." Then we go out in the ring and try it.
Yeah.
And that's how we came up with a lot of stuff. I know it sounds silly, but that's what we did. But we would keep adding to our repertoire all the time.
Yeah.
Just more things like, okay, that worked. What if we did this and that? Just keep adding to it, which is basically the way the business works.
Yeah.
The new kids have got to outshine the old guy, the old school. And it makes sense because you don't want to be boring. They already seen all that. So you got to add on. You got to add on. The old saying used to say, "How far does it go till we shoot or cut somebody's head off?"
Mm-hmm.
That was like 25 years ago. The boys were saying that.
Yeah.
It's 25 years later, and the kids just keep getting better and adding. And they haven't used a knife, well, except for New Jack. They haven't used a knife or a gun yet.
Yeah. No, you definitely added to the product, but you guys fit in. I remember Survivor Series 88. You had that huge, I think, was it 5 teams, 5 tag teams aside? It was a 10-man tag team. I think you opened Survivor Series in 88.
That sounds about right.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, because I got beat by Bobby Heenan. Yeah, thanks for reminding me that, bro.
I don't mean to remind you that, an old wound. No, I think that was
well, now you know what, I love Bobby Heenan to death, but at the same time, at that point in his life, he was a manager.
Yeah.
The first one that's got to get beat by a manager.
Yeah. That was the next year, Marty. That was 89 because you were with the Warrior.
Oh, you came prepared to bury me.
I came prepared to resurrect you, Marty. Very good.
That ain't working. No, I don't. Well, what happened in that first one you were talking about?
The first
I
one,
thought that was the Heenan one. I think you're right. It was the second year.
The first one was the one where the Brain Busters were in it. I think Hours of Pain. Yeah. So there was the Survivor Series with the burgundy ring apron. So before they changed it to the black one. So it would have been 80.
did the Busters and Sean and I, did we end up fighting all the way back to the back on that one?
With the Busters, maybe, because I remember Arn
We,
delivered a very good what was it, that move he did, the spine buster.
yeah,
Sean, it was one that they used that clip over and over. They used it in Coliseum video. It
he
was
did it
such a
better than anybody.
yeah, he did that better than anybody, that was for sure. But yeah, you guys fit in so effortlessly during that time.
Thank
um
God.
how were you received by the other guys? How long did it take for you to gel with the boys in the locker room?
After they get to know us, it was almost like a bittersweet thing because they kind of liked one of us a lot and didn't like the other one of us a lot. And I won't even say who.
Right.
Um, well, they, the bitter one has admitted I was rough to deal with back in the day, and he was. But so, and I used to tell Sean, like, because he would be so back then, he's a different guy now. He would be so ugly to fans, and when we go out to clubs, which that's all we did every night. He'd be so mean to people. He'd be so nose in there, like walking like that. I mean, actually, you know, bowed up shoulders and all that, and
Yeah.
there would be girls waiting to talk to him, and then he'd come say something, and they were like, oh. And I would be walking behind him, and I was like, "No, come here. Let me explain it to you." I would scoop up his messes.
Yeah.
But he, they worked in the dressing room the same way. I told Sean, I said, knock it off, because they don't say that Sean is an asshole. They say the rockers are an asshole. Just like when you lose a tag match or you win it, they don't say Sean won the match or Marty won it. The rockers won or the rockers lost. So it's the same way when you're acting like an asshole.
Right.
The rockers are assholes.
Right.
I'm an asshole because of what he did.
Right.
And I did have, I'm talking, our adorator just corrected me for language. Sorry.
Yeah.
But yeah, it took a while for everybody to finally, including Andre the Giant. He wouldn't even speak to us. And if he didn't want to talk to you, you could forget it. You ain't gonna get him to say. I walked by him every day in the plane, and boss was his big thing. Hey, boss, yeah, boss. I said, how you doing, boss? And sometimes I'd stick my hand out, and after a while, I knew, just embarrassing myself. But I still would walk by. How you doing, boss?
Yeah.
Because he was first seat up front, first class.
Yeah.
And Sean come up to me one time and he said, "Fuck that man." Oh, I did it again. F that guy. Who the hell is he? Boy, he's Andre the Giant. That's who he is, world known. He goes, "Yeah, but I'm not kissing his butt. I mean, you can't say hello to hell with him." He said it in a different language.
Yeah.
But I didn't. I still, it's Andre. I haven't done nothing to him for him to be mad at me, so I'm not going to be mad at him just because he wasn't mad at me. He just wasn't acknowledging me.
Right.
Roman Reigns might, stop to acknowledge me, or something. But and as it worked out, one time we were wrestling in your country. I think it was in, pretty sure it was in England, London, and his knees were so bad at this point they were starting to bow out. I think he'd had a couple of surgeries, and you see where they were leaking fluid in his pants. It was pretty bad, but so we had to go out to the ring as 6-man with him, who won't talk to us, right? And we're walking out, and he didn't realize he has not been. His ritual before matches was to sit and play cards and have a cooler full of wine. He would drink 8, 9 bottles of wine before he went to the ring.
Gosh.
And then you couldn't tell the difference. I mean, but so he, he didn't go out and see the whole setup. When you got to the ring, it was steep stairs to get up to the ring.
Yeah.
And he got up and saw it, and he's like, "Oh," what that voice is.
Yeah.
And I knew exactly what it was, and I said, "Hey, Andre, boss."
Yeah.
And he just looks at me. Now he's got to pay attention.
Yeah.
Just use Sean and I for crutches. Put your hands on top of our heads. Oh, and he did. And man, when he pushed down, we got him up the stairs. And then coming down, I don't even remember, because I was so glad that we got him up the stairs and didn't get our neck broke.
Yeah.
But when we was in the dressing room, he came over to me and apologized for all the not talking to me.
Mhm.
Oh, hey, boss, I'm sorry. You
Mhm.
you won't hear Andre say that much.
Uh,
In fact, that's the only time I've heard it. But
yeah.
he goes, "You okay? Your partner?" And he shook his head no. But I mean, since that day with that,
Yeah.
he finally got Andre. That was the last one. All the other guys were like, no, they're okay. Just one's a little arrogant, but they're okay.
Yeah.
We pretty much got along with everybody, but
Yeah.
there was some slight differences.
Yeah. Yeah. No, but I mean, you definitely could not tell when it came to watching you guys on TV. It looked like you were, you just fit in perfectly. But Marty, I mean, as you
Well,
went along,
let me say this in Sean's defense. Now, as far as him and I, we were like brothers, like you said earlier.
yeah.
We were like brothers joined at the hips, man. We did everything together. I mean, 24/7. When
Mhm.
we first went to WWF, the Rougeau brothers and Bret Hart came over and said, "Look, we noticed you guys are rooming together, riding together. So in the WWF, when you're on the road 300 days a year, you want to get some time away from your partner. This won't work very long."
Mhm.
We didn't have a problem with it. Room together. We rode and rent a car and drive together, clubs together, eat together, women together.
Mhm.
Um, the whole thing.
Yeah.
I mean, we were like bonded at hips. Like I said, we were like Siamese twins. It
Mhm.
was it was only later in our time together that he was ready to make a move and had gotten the inside that they were going to use him good,
Mhm.
that he started being ugly to me, and then it fell apart.
Mhm.
And I think that's well documented. I don't need to talk about that.
Mhm.
But Sean became a very good person.
Mhm.
It just, at first it was, you got to remember he was 19 when he got all this
Right.
popularity
Right.
worldwide.
Yeah.
2021, 22, he's worldwide famous now. That's a
Yeah.
lot.
Yeah.
In the business, we say too much too soon.
Yeah.
Some people can't handle it.
Yeah.
But he adjusted well. He's
Yeah.
doing great now, and I'm happy for him.
Yeah, no, he is. He's turned his life around. But it's hard to imagine when you said that, going back to like WrestleMania 8, when he first came out as a solo competitor at WrestleMania, he was what, 26, 27? It's hard to believe that he was still in his 20s at that time.
Yeah, because he started so young. Yeah,
Yeah, it's
20 there, 20. He probably was 28 then. Yeah,
yeah, something like that.
which is still young to be a world. Anywhere you go in the world, they're screaming your name.
Yeah. But that time period, I mean, I remember that vividly. I remember watching that with my mom when you went through the barbershop window. That was a shocker and a half. I mean, that was for me as a wrestling enthusiast of the Rockers back then. I was sad.
Back then.
Yeah, I mean, well, you still am, but what I mean, as a
Yeah,
kid,
I know. I just play.
it was just like, it was a sad day. But then you disappeared for a year, for the better part of a year, because I remember you came back in '92, right before
Yeah,
the
you mean after the barbershop window?
after the barbershop. Yeah, we
What
did.
what happened was, first of all, let me explain that. I mean, I've told this many times, you might have even heard it.
Yeah.
The barbershop window was supposed to be sugar glass, and they didn't. They had three windows panes for the barbershop. Uh, Two of them sugar glass. They had two in case we had to redo it if it didn't go good the first time, and one was real glass. The one when I went through sugar glass, you don't get cut, but I got cut on my head and some where I was laying on the framework
Mhm.
around my belly. I didn't know you get cut. It wasn't bad,
Yeah,
but I
yeah.
was like, I didn't know you get cut from sugar glass.
Mhm.
And then we went in the back, and one of the production guys come over. He goes, "Oh my God, you're okay? You're okay?" I had a little bit of blood coming, not nothing horrible.
Yeah.
And I'm like, "Yeah, yeah." He was all jittery, scared. I'm like, "Why? What's up?" He goes, "Oh, please don't get me fired. Please don't get me fired." I said, "What is going on? What are you doing? What are you talking about?" He goes, "We had three windows, and they were supposed to mark the two for sugar glass, and they didn't get marked. So we figured we had a 1 3 chance of getting it right, 2 or 3 chance of getting it right. So we guessed, and we guessed wrong." And I was like, "No harm, no foul, bro. Don't worry about it." I mean, I
Yeah.
think he was the happiest guy in the world there, and I was too.
Yeah.
Once I
Yeah.
watched that, because I seen the piece of glass dangling, and
Right.
if it
Right.
would have fell,
Yeah.
man, I might not be here.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
that was what happened immediately after that. Um, I had gotten in house arrest for snatching a policeman up off a girl that he was, and the girl happened to be with me, that he was kind of roughing up in the street.
Okay.
So that's the short term of it. It was all over Florida papers and all that. So I had to do 6 months house arrest for saving them from a lawsuit because in the police reports, one of the officers said, well, I think Mr. Jannetty was responding to where he thought too much force was being used for an arrest. And you are allowed to do that. You can't rough up a policeman, but you can stop them from roughing somebody up. As that is legal rights to do that. I didn't know that. That's what I was told. But thank God for that. I'd had a real long time. But it was 6 months.
Okay.
And that's when I came back. And if you remember, came out of the stand. Sean was with the mirror and sees me in the mirror, and then that whole deal.
Yeah.
For us to go into Royal Rumble, I think was the next thing against each other.
Yeah.
But that was why I was, and I love Vince to death. A lot of people talk trash about him, but if you look at him as a friend, you're gonna get your feelings hurt. You got to understand he's a businessman. He checked on me, and I know everybody would say, was protecting his business interests because y'all just shot the biggest angle ever. But he did extra. He would call and talk to me on the phone and give me encouragement and tell me not to worry. That might have been the investment part, was not to worry, going to bring me back as soon as you're done with this. So I got nothing but love for Vince. He was like that with me my whole career. He always, gave me encouragement or would talk to me or even pull me aside and say, you need to calm it down a little bit.
Yeah.
Party, but not too hard.
Yeah.
So I got nothing but good to say about him.
Yeah.
But that was why the 6 months absence. Then I told him, that's what I was going to say. So I told him, it looks good in the sense that, okay, I just went through a window. I'm injured.
Yeah.
And I may be scared to ever come back to wrestling after that.
Right. Yeah, it worked extremely well, Marty. I forgot about the part where he sees you in the mirror.
Yeah.
And it's good that they kept that alive. But then, they moved through Royal Rumble 93. I mean, yeah, as someone who watched it at the time, I think they could have taken that further, but yeah, that's done. It's history now.
There's a reason for that too. I don't know if we want to get into it.
Well, if it's going to get you in trouble, let's not.
No, it won't get me in trouble. It got Sean in trouble.
Okay, well, we shouldn't do that then.
No, it already did get him in trouble.
Oh, it did? Okay.
Basically what it was he what we went around back then, they would have you work with each other, whoever you was going to be in a pay-per-view with, 3 house shows to get the timing right, get the match right, get it perfect. And we had done exactly that. Our last day in Denver was like probably the best match I've ever had in my life. It was a 20-minute match and we did a jump start. So I mean the people were on their feet from the beginning. 20 minutes later, they're still on their feet because it was a non-stop action, bangity bang, boom, boom, moves and beating up and all that. And we were so out of gas, we didn't leave anything. It's all in the ring. When we came to the back, I fell up under a table and rolled there because I didn't want everybody to see me. They're all back there. The best accolade you can get is, a wrestler is when you come through the curtain, all the boys are standing there and give you a standing O. I rolled under, we got that, so I rolled under a table so they didn't see me go. And I hear this, as I'm like, my the rhythm's off of my breathing because I'm hearing it off. And I stopped and I hear it and I look at Sean is over on the other table doing the same thing. He was just dying. And then Blackjack Lanza, who was aged, had called Vince and said, "You're going to have to put this main event. I've been wrestling 30 years. I have never seen this. You can't put this on anything but main event. Nobody's going to follow it." Because back then the agents had to report the events, by the payphone. They started taping the stuff and then send that to Vince so he could watch it. But he wanted to know what happened every match, every show, everything. So at the Rumble, now we got it down perfect. We're absolutely happy about it, both of us, because we're going to, and they put us on first, which we used to feel insulted by that. But Roddy Piper, who is a great ring psychologist, crowd psychologist, he saw how upset we were for the Rumble against the Orient Express, which was probably the best tag match I've ever been in.
Oh yeah, that was another opener.
You've ever?
Yep.
And Roddy come up and he goes, guys, you're looking at it wrong. The
Mhm.
reason they're putting you on first is you got to be the ones to set the tone for the entire show.
Mhm.
They're going to put the best they have on first
Mhm.
and build on from there. Because if
Yep.
you put a shitty match on, oh, sorry, language. You put a bad match on at the beginning, and I know how that works. You got to work hard to get them back, you know. So we, got put on first for that rumble, Sean and I. But then they said, we're going to interject Sherry because if you remember, it was a thing where she got hurt with the mirror
Yeah.
and Sean didn't have nothing to do with her, check on her, and I did. So it was like, who's she going to go to, Sean or Marty?
Right.
Yeah, and that's what they wanted to portray in that storyline.
Yeah.
And so they're gonna have they interjected a couple spots like let her get in to do this, let her do that, let her trip, and then let her go to Sean and turn and go to Marty. That disrupted the entire rhythm of that match we had set together, put together that was perfect,
Mhm.
absolutely perfect.
Yeah.
By interjecting them threw the whole damn thing off.
Yeah.
And so Vince sees the match and he didn't see what he had heard.
Mhm.
But I guarantee it still wasn't that bad, but it wasn't what it was.
Right.
And when we came in after the end of the show, we were used to Vince calling us over and giving us a hug and shaking us, saying best match, best you stole the show. He called us over, guys. So we're expecting that, even though it wasn't the same performance we just did in Denver.
Mhm.
But we're expecting to hear that. And he goes, I had heard so much about your match. I had heard so much and expected you to steal the show again. And quite frankly, that wasn't it.
Hmm.
We were both like, I never heard that come from him towards me, and Sean hadn't either. We were both like,
Yeah. Yeah.
and I was like, well, I wanted to say, well, y'all interjected Sherry.
Mhm.
We didn't have that the last 3 days, but I was just like, because I'm thinking it wasn't even that bad anyway. I'm trying to think what was so bad. I
Right.
know the rhythm got thrown off with Sherry, but
Mhm.
as I walked away, I heard Sean tell Vince, he goes, hey, can I talk to you?
Mhm.
And I was thinking, like, well, what's he going to talk to him without me there for? You know, I was curious about that. Well, the next day, Vince called me in his office and let me go.
Hmm.
And I was like, what? You let me go because of a bad match? If that's the case, you need to go out in the hallway because it was TV. I think it might have been Raw or whatever, but it was TV tape. You need to go in the hallway and fire 95% of those guys out there if you could fire them for bad matches.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I heard you had been drinking and Sean had to lead you around by the nose.
Wow.
Sean lost. I had to holler across the ring to him what was next a couple of times. He was the one that was lost.
Yeah.
Anyway, he let me go. I couldn't believe it. I kept telling Vince, I can't believe you do this after what I just went through with the house arrest, and they screwed me over that, and you admit it, you know it. Now you're going to get me too. I'd never seen Vince ever put his head down,
Mhm.
but he put his head down. He goes, "Decision's been made. I can't change it." I'm like, "Who the hell's over you?
Yeah.
You're the
Yeah.
boss. What do you mean you can't change your own?
Right.
What?"
Yeah.
Decision's been made. That's all he would say. But he put his head down. He ain't never done that. I ain't never seen him do that to anybody,
Yeah.
anywhere, even when he, stacked up with odds against him. He never put his head down, but he did that day.
Mhm.
And about 3 months went by, me being depressed and sitting in the house and drinking and doing cocaine and doing everything I could, not caring if I lived or not.
Mhm.
And then Kurt Hennig called me one night, Mr. Perfect. Said, Marty, I got your job back. And we ribbed a lot. We played jokes on each other, and I thought, that's not funny, Kurt.
Mhm.
And he goes, no, I'm serious. I'm sitting here with Vince now. They were in Vince's limo riding from one town to another. Vince loved Kurt. Kurt loved him. Well, if you know Vince, he's a good dude.
Mhm.
But he says, I told Vince what happened. I heard Vince was telling me that he didn't want to let you go, but Sean said you were drunk and he had to lead you by the nose. It was him.
Mhm.
And I told Vince all he had to do, I guess Sean the night before, the somas were real bad, the prevalent part of the business. He fell asleep in his suit and they had to call 911 the
Mhm.
night before our match. And, get it. I guess Kurt said you could check with the hospital and see that this is the truth. And it pissed Vince off so bad
Mhm.
that Sean, his little boy toy, lied to him with that. that he, for punishment, had me come back and beat Sean for the IC championship.
Yeah, I remember.
And yeah, and I thought, to me, I thought, you know what, that guy is a genius because he knew that would, because Sean was so, when Sean came in the building that day, he didn't know I was going to be there. He saw me, he goes, "What are you doing here?"
Yeah.
I said, "Well, we got a match tonight."
Yeah.
"No way." I
Yeah.
said, "Well, yeah." "So you don't know what we're doing?" He goes, "No," because I already knew what we're doing.
Yeah.
I said, "Okay, well, I'll let Vince tell you." And when Vince told him, his mouth just dropped and he almost started crying. I
Yeah.
mean, he got teary eyed. He goes, are, are you joking?" He goes, "Well, why would I joke?"
Right. Yeah.
And again, Sean, when the thing was done,
Mm.
Sean wanted to pull him aside. He goes, "Vince, can I talk to you over here?" Vince says, "You can tell me right here." Because that's what he did last time. But yeah, so it actually worked. It funny. Sean was so distraught after that. He was so upset. I mean, first thing he said, I think it was Rick Steiner heard it. He goes, "I got to go call my mom. Then I got to call the Nasty Boys," and because they were good friends of ours. And I was like, "For what?" Just, "I got to explain this to him."
Mhm.
And Rick's like, "What?" He's got to call his mom and explain that he's getting beat by you. "You want me to go beat his ass, Marty?" I'm like, "Oh man, no." But yeah, man, Vince knew that that would break Sean's heart, and it did.
Yeah.
So that was his punishment back for Sean buying to him.
Yeah.
That's
It's
what all that was.
it's amazing when you get to hear it now, when you uncover the story behind it, because I remember that night. I was really happy that you'd won the belt that time. And you could see the elation on your face when you were running around ringside. I think, didn't Kurt come to the ring?
Yes,
Your perfect
it's
came to
it.
the ring.
It was supposed to throw the towel and it was supposed to wrap around Sean's face, but it hit. That time he wasn't perfect. He hit the side, but Sean backed up into a roll up. But
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. 93 was a good year for you because I think you also got the tag belts with the 1, 2, 3 Kid, right? In 93.
was that 93? I know we got match of the year, Sean and I, with PWI magazine, Pro
Yeah.
Wrestling Illustrated with Bill Apter.
Yeah.
We had gotten the match of the year for that. If it wasn't that one, it was the one right after. But I think it was that match, the Intercontinental title match.
Yeah. The
Was that
Intercontinental.
match of the year.
That was it.
And then the Kid would have come, yeah, it was later that year, I think. It
Yeah.
was September, November, somewhere in there.
Yeah. And then for a little while, then you disappeared from our screens again because I remember there was a gap, and then you came back in 95. So
At the end of it, yeah.
what was the story of why did you leave at that time?
The 94 was it? When was it? 93 finished out. The beginning of 94 was February. It was right at my birthday, basically. I had a problem with a young girl that I moved into my house. I had almost died 3 different times in 6 weeks. The
Gotcha.
last one being a car wreck where it was 103 miles an hour and she whacked my arm. We started flipping and luckily walked away from that. But
Yeah.
was going back to Orlando so I could fly out for the Survivor Series where the Kid and I actually won. The two of us finished the last one standing. Um, but so I told her because right around Thanksgiving, I said, why don't you pack your stuff and go home? I'll pay for you to go home and see your family for Thanksgiving. And she goes, "Oh, really? Oh, that'd be so nice." I said, "Yeah, because you don't want to stay around here because she'd only been at my place in Orlando for 6 weeks.
Mhm.
She didn't know anybody and that's what I was telling her. I didn't want her to be there by herself.
Mhm.
Her little hoe butt wouldn't have been by herself anyway, but she she went to she went home, flew home. When I got back, I told her it'd be like 10 days. It was only like 3 or 4 days. It was a short thing. But I got home and I packed all of her stuff and flew it out to her and said, "Do not come back." And she was like, "Oh man, I got my brother's truck. I can come back. Oh, it's not a problem." I said, "No, you're missing the point. I don't want you to come back." One night I was out partying and I come home and there's a white truck in my yard
Mhm.
that I recognized and I wasn't it wasn't unusual for cars to be in my yard because my friends would come over and party in the house while I was gone, which
Mhm.
was fine, except they wouldn't clean up, so I had to stop that. So I was getting mad about which one of them came over this time.
Mhm.
And looking at the tag and it says Colorado. That's Denver, Colorado is where she was at. And I'm like, No, I know she did not.
Hmm.
And I went up. No, I'm so mad. And I'd been drinking. It's like 3:30 in the morning. Been to after hour bars, and came home with nobody. That made me even more mad. And I went. I went up to the window was busted
Yeah.
right by the door, and the truck's right there, and the window's busted. And I'm like, she's broke in the house. And I got so mad, I'm hollering at her. The door's locked. I got the keys in my pocket right there, but I'm yelling through the thing for her to come open the door, come open the door.
Yeah.
And I was so angry. I mean, you know how you just lose it.
Yeah.
I crawled through the hole. I got the keys in my pocket. Crawled through the hole, got a little cut. When I went, I heard music playing upstairs, and it was in a room that was bad already for something. I went up there and music, and you know I picked my door because it was locked, and she got the dresser pulled in front of it. And I'm thinking, she's in there having sex with somebody in my house. And I was like, I got mad and kicked the door, right? It went off the hinges and bounced by her,
Mm.
just on a bar stool with one of my rocker stretchy leggings, leg ties,
Mm.
trying to put her head up in it, you know, to hang herself. She had it from a plant hook. I don't know how the heck she thought any of this was going to work.
Yeah.
But I ran over. It scared me because somebody already had a mistake in that room.
Mhm.
I ran over and pushed her off the, not hard, just pushed her off for not being able to hang herself.
Mhm.
And then she took off running down the street, and the police showed up, and um, they had to make an arrest. I'm going to try to shorten this long story. They had to make an arrest. And I said, well, arrest her. They were saying they just passed a law that they had to make an arrest called in Florida. And I was like, you got to arrest somebody, arrest her. I mean, she broke in the house, tried to hang herself upstairs.
Yeah.
And they were like, they made it like, Marty, they knew who I was. They'd been there before. They're like, Marty, look at you. And I was 230-pound pro wrestler. Look at her. She was like a 100-pound petite little thing.
Mhm.
You know, if we arrested her, we'd be the jokes of the city.
Yeah.
So that's your criteria for arresting me, huh? So, okay, let's go.
Mm.
Because I was going to get it all in the news. You know, the Longwood city know what they were about all
Mm.
over Orlando. But the next day, I had to be to a European tour. It started right there, once again in London. And Vince, I had to call Vince from jail because they were telling me, Marty, it's only $300. You can bond out easy. I said, I ain't going to. We're going to get this on the news. You arrested me for a girl breaking in my house. And she had written a suicide note.
Yeah.
And they found a bottle of Bacardi halfway gone underneath the bed.
Mhm.
But her suicide note said, Mom and Dad, I love y'all. I'll cry again. But, and she said, Marty, when I told you I loved you, I do. But so she evidently really was going to try to hang herself. I don't know how she's going to do it with a plant hook and a spandex damn leg thing.
Yeah.
But the point I guess I was going to say is I had to call Vince, let
Mhm.
him know I wasn't going to make the tour because it was the next day. You know, get on the airport and fly. And Vince was like, well, "What's going on?" And I told him everything, and he goes, "Well, they can't do that." I said, "Well, they did. I'm sitting here." He
Mhm.
goes, and I told him, I said, I could bond out stuff at $300, but I'm going to put this all over TV.
Mhm.
And he goes, Marty, I need you in Europe, boy, and I need you making a point of this.
Mhm.
And I said, okay. You know, I'm going to tell him no. And I said, but what do you want me to do? Hold on. And he makes a call like in minutes. They
Mhm.
come. If I would have called a bondsman, I'd have had to wait an hour or so. And it was in the middle of the night, so longer.
Yeah.
They come and said, you're free to go. You don't think Vince got some power?
Sheesh.
So he does that. I go over to England there, London, the first show, and I had to work with Diesel. You remember that crucifix power bomb thing he
Oh yeah.
did or whatever? Oh no, it was power bomb.
Yeah. The
He
jack.
over rotated me and bounced my head off the mat, and I was like this the rest of the night and the next morning, and calling back to the United States to say, you know, hey, can we do tags? I can't do anything. Pat Patterson was asleep. He said, call later. You know, it's 5 o'clock here where we're at. And I did call later from home because I thought it was so disrespectful that I was left in a overseas, and that they I said it was in London, but I take it back. It was in Germany because reason being is because they were speaking German and they would speak to you in English. They can,
Mhm.
but they didn't want to deal with you. And all the boys that come through were pretty rough, so they were acting like no English, no English. So I was having a hard time with that.
Yeah.
Sorry, I put that on London. Sorry about that.
That's all right. That's all right.
But yeah, so I flew home and called Pat back and said, "Yeah, I'm calling you back.
Yeah.
Where you at, buddy? I'm at home. I quit." Now that got back to Vince. Vince thought I did this for him, and he quit after one day.
Hmm.
And that was that period you talked about.
Yeah.
Last year, that was the beginning of '94, and it was towards the end of '95
Yeah.
before I came back.
Almost 2 years. Yeah.
Yeah, and then that's when they, started back with Chris Candido and Sonny
Mhm.
having a match against them. Then Al Snow and I got thrown in together, and then we did the New Rockers from there.
Yeah. 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 And you evolved the Rockers. It was a different Rockers. It was the new Rockers because you were more, I'm trying to think how, because Al Snow played it.
As
From what
this
I remember,
silly stuff.
yeah, silly. He was more silly, and but you had matured a lot, and it was evident at that time. You could see that you were mature. But I do remember, like, even as me going back in my mind, I was so excited when I saw you come back in '95. It was so, and I remember they gave you that new ring attire. You had I think it was the singlet then. You didn't have the tights. You came in with,
Yeah,
you had all the tassels on.
right,
You
yeah.
looked more like the Ultimate Warrior back then. They gave you all that, but no, it worked. So, but that time with the new Rockers, what was it like? Because the industry was changing, the storylines were changing. Did you find it as enjoyable as the early '90s when they started to shift towards that Attitude Era?
No, and they hadn't shifted to it yet. They were heading towards it, but there's a backstory that it sounds like I'm talking down Sean all the time, but I'm not. It's just facts, it's just factual. Um, when they had come and put me in, I loved Al from the beginning, loved him to death, great worker. I'd worked a match with him in Smoky Mountain, and we had the best match.
Mhm.
And he's such a humble guy. Um, but when they said we were going to tag us together, I was excited, and so was he, because he had went in as was an avatar or something. He
Yeah,
had a couple of gimmicks that
yeah,
didn't work well.
yeah.
But so now he was going to get his break for sure as a tag, and they didn't tell us what yet. And then they said the New Rockers.
Mhm.
Now I thought, New Rockers. I mean, okay.
Yeah,
And at that point I'm with it. And then we're like, well, I mean, what do we do? They said, well, you guys are stuck in the '80s. You're still in the past. You're silly. You think everybody still wants you. And I'm like, this is all put down stuff.
yeah,
I mean, what? I didn't understand it, and I wasn't happy about it. Al, of course, was happy because he's getting his break. It was a big break in the industry
yeah,
at that level. Um, I'm sitting there. I didn't want to disappoint Al, so I'm like, and trying to act happy about it. And then Sean comes around the corner. He goes, "Hey, what do you think of the new Rockers?" And I thought he would be like, "It kind of messes up what we built." I was thinking that's what he's thinking, so I'm real careful about saying it. Al's right there,
yeah.
and I'm like, "It's." He goes, "I figured you would like it. I put it together."
Hmm.
That's when I was like,
Hmm.
because at that time he hated people coming to him and asking him where I was and how I was doing, and how come he got the break and I didn't, that I was as good. Some people said better.
Mhm.
He couldn't stand that, so he was just now this is my opinion, so I can't prove it, but it don't matter now, but pretty sure. And now that Sean's honest and all that, he would probably say that he was wanting to distance himself from the whole rocker thing.
Hmm.
So the new rockers was a means of doing that.
Yeah,
For me, it was just like, wow, you know.
yeah,
So we ran with it, and I told Al, I was like, you be the one stuck in the '80s, you be the one all silly and all, and
yeah.
I'll be like I'm trying to teach you to be a rocker, and that's not it. Which is, oh shit, sorry,
So,
and it's a spam call. Um, so I'll be the rocker teaching you. You get all giddy and silly and all that, but I'm like, that's not it. That's not it. So
yeah.
we went with that for a while. At first, the fans were confused. So were the boys. They were like, what are they trying to do?
Mhm.
Um, And after a while, they started catching. I guess once you force feed somebody so much, they're going to eat it.
Yeah.
Um, they told us that's not quite what they wanted. As the fans started liking it, came to Al and I and said, "We need you. Y'all are like, cutting up silly, but we're still performing. Doing the cool moves and everything
Hmm.
like rockers would do." They were like, "We need you to be a little more vicious."
Hmm.
And we're like, "Okay." I was good for that, and we did. We got vicious, and then we were getting over as
Yeah.
vicious. Um, and then they came to us and that's not quite it either.
Hmm.
A little bit of each, somewhere in the middle.
Hmm.
And we did that. And then Vince came to us. And once it started getting over, one night Vince came to us and goes, "Guys, I don't know where you're going with this, but that's not what we want. Let's try something different, work on something different." Like what? You figure it out.
Hmm.
So when he walked off, I told Al, I said, "I don't know what to do. We've gotten over being silly, being serious, and in the middle."
Hmm.
Al says, "Marty, they don't want us getting over." That's when I realized, damn, that's exactly what it is.
Yeah.
That wouldn't confirm my story to start with.
Yeah.
That, if the new rockers get over, maybe it wasn't the Marty Jannetty of the team, right?
Yeah.
Maybe you were the Shawn Michaels of the team.
Yeah. Gosh. I mean, I didn't realize that was, I mean, like you said, it was a different time. Sean was different. Obviously at that time he'd positioned himself at the top of the company. He was indispensable to Vince at
Yeah,
that time. So
yeah.
I guess he had a lot of clout. But then you then departed from WWF and you returned to you entered WCW in the best shape of your career. I mean, I remember seeing you when you were in WCW. I was like, wow. But how was it like? I've interviewed quite a few of the guys that came from WWF to WCW, and it was more along the lines that Eric was just buying everybody up. Did you feel like that, or was he trying to establish you in WCW? Did they give you the opportunity?
Not really. When I came in '98, it was cliquish. You were either in Kevin Sullivan's clique. When I got there, it wasn't. The reason that I left, which I never wanted to leave WWF, the reason I left was because I got word through Pat Tanaka, a friend of mine, good friend of mine. Well, you know who Pat Tanaka is.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, he said Kevin Sullivan wants you and is willing to pay you a certain amount of money. Um, and I thought, well, let me, my contract's coming up soon. At the end of this year was the end of '96.
Mhm.
And I said, let me talk to Vince because I wanted to stay.
Yeah.
And I told Al, he goes, "Brother, do what's best for you." Al's always going to be a good hearted, carefree person.
Mhm.
Um, and so I went to Vince and I said, "Vince, they're offering me, I ain't going to say it was 150,000 because it's such a low amount, but they're offering me 150,000 and I'm getting a little less than that here. I'm probably going to make 140 this year.
Mhm.
Can you match them?" And Vince said, "Well, I tell you, do what's best for you. I'm not going to be able to match that. It's only a few thousand, Vince.
Yeah. Yeah.
You got that opportunity, I would jump on it."
Mhm.
What that told me is you got nothing for us. Me and how this is going nowhere. We're just spinning our wheels. So I did thank him, for the opportunities that he'd given me and the chance and all that. And left it very peacefully. And see, Kevin couldn't talk to me directly because of contract things. You can't cross over to another company and negotiate while somebody's on contract.
Right.
So that's why Pat was the in betweener.
Yeah.
And I called up Pat, and it took for a while to get to him. I didn't have Kevin's number to call him, but Pat finally called me. "Okay, now I'm done, right?" And WWF, and finally get Pat. And I said, "Hey, bro, I'm clear. I'm free. My contract's done." It was done like 2 weeks later anyway. Now it's the middle of January.
Mhm.
As I'm free, I got no more contract. I'm ready. Tell Kevin. I'll never forget. He goes, "Hey, Marty, got bad news." "Well, what bad news you got, Pat?" "Kevin's not working there anymore." No, no, this is gat as it gets. I just left.
Yeah.
Man, so what I was going to say is when I did finally go there, it was quite a bit later. Terry Taylor called me and said, "Hey, man, I can get you 125. That's the best I can do." I'm not going to say how much, but
Okay.
and at that point, I got to get something and then work my way back up. Um, and remember, this was 98.
98.
But
Yeah.
as you asked, it was clicks. It was Dusty Rhodes. It was Ric Flair. It was Kevin Sullivan. Um, Bischoff. They all had clicks. You had to be in one of them for power. I mean, I always didn't like that kind of crap. You know, as a Lone Ranger, you didn't have no chance as a Lone Ranger.
All right.
But that's why I was building myself up the best I could.
Mhm.
And Arn Anderson actually noticed it and came to me. He goes, "Damn, kid, you looking good." I said,
Mhm.
"I tell you what, you just keep doing what you're doing. You're going to get recognized, and you just stay clean. Keep doing what you're doing. Wear some good dressy tights. Get some bright colors because you're getting tan like that. Because it'll get noticed." And within 2 weeks, it did. Because they even mentioned it on the announcing guys were saying, in this business, sometimes you get better and when you're on without any backup and the people with the pen, they notice. That's what they were saying, exactly what Arn told me. And then but then Conan tore my shoulder out and I was done again for a while.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I
And
love Conan, but he was, yeah,
and then WCW pretty
and
much.
but what you were saying about Bischoff buying everything up, he had Ted Turner's wallet open, just a pool of money, pull,
Yeah.
pay whatever you got. The guys were on guaranteed amounts, which is really the way to go with a contract. It's not what you're going to get a year, it's how much of it's guaranteed.
Mhm.
And they were doing good with the guarantees then.
Mhm.
And the guys would fake injuries and stay home and
Yeah.
get paid.
Yeah.
And too many of them were doing it. And when Conan ripped my shoulder out accidentally, he's a good brother. Um, you know, uh, JJ Dillon asked me to take time off, get a heal, or go get surgery. I'm like, no, 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 do not put me on that DL list
Yeah.
or IR, injured reserve list.
Mhm.
Um, and he goes, no, we need you at 100%. Go get it. Don't worry, your job's safe.
Mhm.
And went and got shoulder surgery. And then when I went back to the follow up, they said 3 more months before you can start wrestling again. And right after that evaluation, JJ called. Actually, no, he didn't call. I called him, but I
Mhm.
got an overnighted Federal Express package
Mhm.
from WCW
Mhm.
the day before Thanksgiving. So when families are together, and I
Yeah.
open it up, and it's like we're gonna do you a favor. It's like they were doing me a favor the way it was worded. We're not gonna hold you back from pursuing other career opportunities. We're gonna let you out of your contract.
Mhm.
Wow, thank you so much. And to
Yeah.
do that the day of before Thanksgiving when families are together,
Yeah.
wow, what a classful place.
Yeah.
Um, and I called JJ about it, and he goes, "Marty, the door's not closed. Just once you heal and you're ready, call us back."
Mhm.
Just
Mhm.
3 months. What am I going to do then? And
Yeah.
I told you, JJ, I told you I didn't want to be on this IR,
Right.
you know,
Yeah.
injured reserve, because
Yeah.
too many guys were bullshitting it. And so even if I was being honest with it, didn't
Mhm.
matter. I
Yeah.
mean, because I'm on the IR, and then they were getting tired of it, and
Yeah.
they finally did away with it. And then, a year or so later, they sold the company.
Yeah. A year or so later, yeah, it was pretty much done anyway.
Yeah.
It was going down, but then you did, you worked some other shows in between there, and then the time when you made a comeback to WWE. So then it would be what about almost 6, 7 years before we saw you again on TV, and on
98, it was 2005. So what's that? 7 years.
7 years.
Yeah.
But you came back, and in that time, if I remember correctly, the Rockers were resurrected for one night. So you worked with Sean. Now, at this point, had Sean apologized to you? Because I know he'd
Oh
be.
yeah, we were doing fine. He had actually I'll leave that long story because it's been told a lot anyway. But
Yeah.
yeah, he had called me and wanted me to go out to Phoenix, Arizona. He would pay for it for what was called AIM, which is Athletes International Ministry.
Okay.
Um, he had gotten saved and was Christian and all that. And he wanted to help me with that, which I was in the middle of something, contemplating bad things. And I thought, yeah, let me do this with him of all people.
Yeah.
Plus, I just had to see it. I had to see Sean, dropping to his knees and praying, and in real,
Mhm.
because that would be like it would help me because I can believe in him. He's not going to BS it.
Right.
Um, but so yeah, we did that, and we hugged, and we were, he gave me like a huge apology for all the things in the past, and I realized that he was going, it was like we said earlier, too much too soon.
Yeah.
It wasn't, anything being, he wasn't being malicious, but yeah, it was, we hooked up on that, and we had. It's funny, we had not talked for almost 7 years or longer,
Mhm.
and certainly hadn't been in the ring together
Yeah.
as a team since '93.
Yeah.
Maybe in '96. I think I had a singles match with him in '96
Uh-huh.
as the with the Al Snow as a new rocker.
Yeah.
Um, so I mean, it's 9 years since we've even been in a ring together, and then we did the rocker reunion against La Resistance,
Yeah.
and they, I mean, it was just like we never missed a day, man.
Yeah.
Because the Rockers broke up in the beginning of '92 with the barbershop window.
Yep.
Um, and so that's 13 years later, and we still doing our double tandem stuff.
Yeah.
It's,
Yeah.
in all my years of doing nip ups, where you jump to your feet, I had never missed one.
Mhm.
That night when we went did a double hip toss, dropped elbows, leaned back.
Mhm.
One of them's arm was under me and it rolled. It rolled as I went to kick. So I had to put one hand down to get
Yeah.
up.
Yeah.
And I didn't see Sean. He told me, he goes, "Did you fall? Did you fall? I fell." And I
Yeah.
was like, "I didn't fall the way I got a hand down, but you fell." And he
Yeah.
goes, "Never have before." And I've never seen it.
Yeah.
So it was funny how our rhythm and everything was a tandem. It was in unison always.
Mhm.
Even the way we left the ring, we bounced over the top rope and flipped
Yep.
down to the floor and told you at the same time.
Yep.
Um, I mean, the only time either one of us in our entire career
Yeah.
did a nip up that didn't work was together,
I
same time.
I
It was
know.
kind of crazy.
Yeah, I do because I watched that. I watched some of that part because at that time in 2005 and 6 and 7, I wasn't watching the product anymore. Not like it was in the 90s. So I went back in time and watched that, and I did see that moment. But
Yeah,
you guys did go over the top rope in
yeah.
tandem and everything else. It was, I think, one thing as a fan, I would have loved to have seen you guys in the old garb. I think that would have made it if you'd have just put on the tights and the, you know,
Well, and I had as close as I was gonna get, but he didn't want to do that. He wanted to keep his image thing, which I
yeah.
understood.
Yeah,
But
it makes sense. But then going from there, I wanna move forward a couple of things, Marty, actually you mentioned there. So you yourself, did you find faith when you went to AIM? Is Sean helped you with that? Your belief in God?
yeah,
That
yeah,
now.
yeah. I was raised by a Christian mom, and so I mean, I had all the background to it, and there was several times during my life, I was just, when I was very pretty deep in drugs, smoking coke in particular. I
Mm,
just couldn't get away from it, and I started tried so hard to turn
mm,
to the Bible and to God and everything, and would pray with all my heart because I couldn't get away from it on my own,
right.
and I lost a lot of faith
Mhm.
one day when Tatanka, a very good friend of mine, everybody knows Tatanka,
Yeah,
not Tanaka, Tatanka.
Tonka.
Um, we were very good friends, and he told me, he said, "Mart," I told him what was going on, and he said, "Come to my church with me. It's different. They lay hands on you, and you'll feel something, and all that." So I agreed to do that, and I went with him. It was a house that they converted the front room into all these rows of chairs, and did this. It was never a sermon. It was just a quick talk, and then he would ask people to come up
Mhm.
for what they whatever they needed. Did they want something to get healed or somebody to get healed, whatever it was. This preacher guy would put his hands on them, and I'd seen that with my mom a million times. I've seen it with Benny Hinn,
Mhm.
fake butt.
Mhm.
But that's I knew all about what it was, laying the hands on somebody, and I was thinking like, wow. CVIFE was there, and he was one of the Samoan guys that was you know, in shape and pretty badass. Excuse
Mhm.
my language, but he um, he told me, Marty, I think they're talking about chi energy.
Mhm.
I not fake it. If I go up there and I don't feel it, I don't go down.
Mhm.
And so I'm thinking, okay, well, I'm glad I'm with him. Tatanka was up front helping people as they fall and lay them down. Um, so I watched Stevie in particular, like, okay, here we go. And I'm nudging the girl I was with, who I'd married for 4 days. I'm nudging her, like, let's see what happens. Let's see what happens. They did the hands on, and you know, and he fell down the aisle like next to us.
Mhm.
And my girl was in between me and him, and
Mhm.
I felt this like warmth coming through me. Got about halfway from that side over, and then it went back down. I was looking at her. She's
Mhm.
looking at me like, felt that.
Mhm.
You know,
Mhm.
it was like a warmth type thing.
Yeah.
So I thought, well, wow.
Mhm.
And she was amazing. I had not heard the reason to go yet.
Mhm.
There were people were going up there wanting to be successful. Tatanka even was wanting his company to be a multi-million dollar company. And was just all these greed things. That's
Mhm.
not why you go to find God.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I couldn't. I didn't want to be the only one to go say I can get off, so I can get off drugs.
Right.
Um, but so he seen that it was me and her
Mhm.
um, last ones that had not gone. It was like 30 people,
Mhm.
and she was like, "Come on, let's go." I'm like, "No, I'm not going for these reasons. I'm not asking for money."
Mhm.
Um, but he said he saw it. He goes, "Come on up here, sir. You haven't." I was like, "Okay." Now he's pointing me out in front of everybody.
Yeah.
But I went up, and I'm believing because of what happened to Stevie.
Mhm.
Um, I'm he said, what's your story? I said, well, I'd really rather whisper it. And I said, I can't get off drugs and I need help with it. And he goes, oh, okay.
Mhm.
And he did her first
Mhm.
because I was holding her hand at first. And when she went down, I'm still holding her.
Mhm.
And I could feel again the warmth coming halfway up, not as much as CB. And when CB did it, even the preacher guy said, "Ooh, that was an overflow. Did y'all feel it?" So there
Mhm.
was something to the energy in the room.
Yeah.
And I felt that warmth like with him, but just through where I was holding her hand.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking, this is gonna, let me see what this is.
Yeah.
And then, main thing, will it work? Will it get me off the drug?
Mhm.
And, the preacher said some words, put his hands on, and he pushed. I got my hands up and he pushed. I
Mhm.
didn't feel nothing. So I didn't go down.
Mhm.
And so he said a couple more words and, you know, pushed again. And I'm waiting to feel it. And he goes, don't fight this. I'm not. I want to feel it. I ain't feel nothing.
Mhm.
And he shoved it. And I just backed up and said, it ain't working, man.
Mhm.
And then he says, he probably was embarrassed, because his powers are gone
Mhm.
or something.
Yeah.
But he said, he goes, I saw when you walked in, you had a big black cloud, which is what Vince calls my gat. Bad luck is you had a black cloud hanging over you. I could see it in your aura when you came through. I said, okay, well, all right, let me go sit down.
Yeah.
And that was it for that. I lost all faith in all that
Mhm.
until when what happened with that. Um, and I gave it one more try. And you know what? I lived such a pure life for like from I'd been baptized before, when I was a kid
Mhm.
through my mom. But Sean was actually him and well, he was the one that baptized me and dunked me in the water.
Mhm.
Uh, Scott Simpson, who was one of the Russians, Nikita Koloff, he was there in the water dunking somebody next to me, and we I felt pure for the rest of that time there at the AIM minister thing. And then for, stayed in touch with Sean and, you know, everything was so good for about 3 weeks.
Mhm.
And then it started fading. When things are fresh, they're
Mhm.
good. But
Mhm.
as time goes on and you distance from whatever that was that happened, you start forgetting the feeling, you start forgetting the
Yeah.
closeness you had. And
Yeah.
it kind of just drifted away. I had nothing negative to say about it, but I have a belief in a higher power, not the Bible per se. I think the Bible is a very good guideline. I wouldn't take it, word for word. Like, I mean, who believes there was a talking snake, come out here talking the same language, a snake. talking to Adam and Eve about eating an apple, and somebody in the belly of a whale for 3 days and then spit back out in the same place. No digestion took place in 3 days. I mean, there's just a lot of fairy tale stuff in it. So I mean, like I said, it's a good guideline. I don't think that there's some guy in the sky sitting there just the God of love. But if you screw up, I'll throw you in a lake of fire for eternity. That sounds like a God of love. I just believe in a higher power. There is a higher power.
Mhm.
I just don't think nobody really can put, when you call somebody a guy in a white robe in the sky, you boxed him in, you've labeled him. And I just don't believe you could label, omnipowered person like that, or power, energy that you can't put it in a box.
You,
Um,
Marty, I saw something last night, and I'm a believer. I love the Lord, and I think there are no coincidences. It was a brand new interview with Alice Cooper, and he did an interview with what's the guy's name, the pastor there, but it was from a CBN, and I listened to his story because I've been skeptical because I was like, well, okay, this guy's claiming Christ, but yet he wears makeup. He's a goth. He does all this other stuff. And he explained it. But what really caught my attention was the fact that he talked about his drug and alcohol addictions and how it took him. I mean, he sounded awful, like coughing up blood, all kinds of like almost dead. I mean, like the abuse he put on his body would have been untold.
yeah,
But
he said that.
but
He
he
told Jake that. He said, I did so much acid, I shouldn't be alive.
no, it didn't sound like he should be alive. But I'm watching him in this brand new interview. He's healthy. He's thin. He's tanned. But he's talking about. He goes literally. He goes. I cried out to God and I read the Bible, and he said all of those addictions were gone, and even the doctors didn't know how on earth because he said he hasn't touched alcohol in over almost 40 years,
Wow.
and he is clear-minded, very intelligent. He's done an outreach for kids to lead them to Christ, but allow them to express themselves, in their talents and stuff like that. When we get off, I'm going to send you that interview because
Okay.
I feel it was just so random, and I knew we were going to have our interview today, and I thought, okay, I need to share this with Marty, especially because you
Yeah.
like rock and roll, so
Yeah.
you can
Oh,
identify.
Alice is one of my favorites when I was in high school.
Yeah, you can identify with him, and I think it would be really cool for you to listen to that. And in terms of faith, I think it's something that you need to practice for sure. Like
Oh, yeah.
if I don't wake up and read my Bible, I don't start my day with God. If I don't get up and pray, I'm not starting with God, and then I could have some problems.
Yeah.
So I think it's good, much like when we train, when we do exercise with our weights,
Right.
petition. If you stop, the muscle's going to go. It's the
Right.
same
Yeah. You don't use it, you lose it. Yeah.
don't use it, you lose it. So I think with faith with you, when you experience that peace, I would encourage you because, I consider you a friend now. We've talked so much and with your wife and everything. And I would just encourage you to remember that 3 weeks and just if you could apply.
Oh, I mean, what went before it was most powerful because you always hear people tell of the miracle that happened. They, I hear them, and then I mean, I'm like, okay, after 20 years, and they finally came up with the medicine, and God did it. I'm like, 20 years, you let you suffer for 20 years, just every miracle, that guy, one lady got shot in the face and couldn't talk anymore, but it was a miracle she wasn't killed. I mean, it was just silly stuff like that wouldn't work for me.
Yeah.
But what happened with Sean and I, was a believer because real quickly, I'll just say I was contemplating how to die.
Mm,
Um, Things had gotten really bad,
mm,
and I was walking down the street, in a friend's neighborhood, and I was talking, always would talk and saying, look, man, if you don't want me to do this, let me know. But you got to make it obvious. I'm pretty stupid. I said, and not, I had this thing with lights for a while. Lights go off. It's an answer to something.
mm,
Street lights, right when I'm under them, not before or after, right dead under. And it happened for a long time. Then it finally went away. But that was a connection for a moment. I believed it was something.
mm,
Uh, I mean, I believe in energy, positive and negative energy. But anyway, on this one, as I'm trying to pray, the phone rang, and I had borrowed my friend's cell phone because I lost mine,
mm,
um, and I didn't recognize the number, which I wouldn't. It was his phone, so I had to turn around and go back. And on the way back, I was saying, all right, I'm 2 houses away. I'm getting close. You better let me know something. Because it wasn't a matter if I was going to do it. It was how I was going to. I already made up my mind. I wanted to, and somehow I kept coming up with buy the biggest pile of cocaine and go somewhere where nobody can find me, because I want my family or friends to be sad.
Yeah.
But I got right to the door
Mhm.
and I looked up things. I didn't figure, anything.
Mhm.
Um, but I went in and told Rod, my buddy, I said, "Here, man, you had a call while I was walking."
Mhm.
And he checked his voicemail. He goes, "Brother, you need to listen to this." And I was like, and I got on. I remember this is his cell phone.
Mhm.
And I have not talked to this person that's leaving the message
Mhm.
in 7 years. It was Shawn Michaels
Mhm.
calling to say he would like to invite me to that AIM thing.
Mhm.
Now you got to think about that on somebody else's phone. Right when I was saying, "Give me a sign," is more than obvious.
Yeah. Yep.
And I asked Sean, I called him and said, "How'd you get this number?" He goes, "Some kid in Ohio, I was signing an autograph, and he asked me, had I talked to you?" And I said, "I didn't have your new number."
Mhm.
And he gave me this one. And, so Sean called during that moment, though, like, "Give me a shirt sign," you
Yeah.
know,
Yeah. Yeah.
but
But
yeah, man,
w-
it was, uh-oh,
you okay?
my computer, am I still there?
Yeah, you're still here.
Okay. Yeah, so that led me to be like, wow,
Yeah.
there's no denial of that, right? 7 years and we have not talked.
Right.
7 years.
Yeah.
And during that moment where I'm wanting to sign it is clear, it can't be mistaken,
Mhm.
on somebody else's cell phone.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yep.
that was undeniable.
And
And what they call it, not conviction, testimony, give your testimony. I
yeah.
gave that at the AIM on out in front of 3,000 people and told that.
Yeah.
Everybody was like, that was an incredible story. For
Well,
me, that worked.
yeah.
And it hasn't gone away. It just wasn't as powerful,
Yeah.
like I said, as time goes. And,
Yeah.
I stayed in touch with Sean and, would ask him when I started feeling like, well, starting to slip away. And, he talked me through it and all, but just
Yeah.
eventually it's not that I don't have the love and belief.
Mhm.
It's just different for me. Like I say, I believe in a higher power
Mhm.
that we're all part of, that we're all one with.
Mhm. Yeah.
I just, I mean, to me, I've studied every religion
Mhm.
that there is. Uh, there's only one that I've studied. I studied because I want to know every one of them.
Mhm.
Each one says their way is the only way.
Mhm.
And there's one out there, and I'm not going to say it because people are going to go, "Oh," but
Yeah.
there's one that says whatever way works for you.
Mhm.
This isn't the only way. And to me, that's like a toolbox. All the tools in it
Mhm.
can accomplish the same job, whatever works for you. If believing in a higher power keeps me from doing bad things, what's wrong with that? It don't have to be what's written that
Mhm.
you have to do it this way to me. But that's just me. But as long as it works for me, I mean, I believe
Yeah.
that I'm as good a person as anybody else out there.
Yeah, well, Marty, I mean, there's no denying that. And yeah, another thing, basically the Sean, going back to the Sean thing.
Yeah,
So Sean's God is the God of the Bible. It is
right.
Jesus Christ. So
And
at,
that's fine for him.
at that moment when that happened for you, that's the connection that's there. And so, but I mean, obviously, I'm going to send you that video
Yeah,
after
please do.
for
I'll
Malik.
definitely like to see that.
And but now moving forward to this
Yeah, I
past,
would say because I got to roll here in a minute.
yeah, yeah, to this past weekend, you got an award at
Yeah.
the gathering. So
Yep.
can you tell us a little bit about that, and then we'll wrap it up for today?
Yeah, that was very fun weekend. The guy T Mart that put it on, he told me, come Friday night to the banquet, um, and dress up a little. I said, okay, it's one of those kind of banquets. Okay. He didn't want to tell me. He said, what's an awards banquet? And then finally, right, once I showed up, he's like, okay, we're going to give you an award tonight. I'm like, why didn't you tell me that the whole time? I ain't got no speech ready. And what kind of award? He goes, you'll be fine.
Yeah.
And I was scared to death, man. But I think the reason it was done that way, it was hoping that wanted to see me there first, make sure I made it.
Yeah.
But yeah, so they honored me for a lifetime of entertainment of people. And Ricky Morton of Rock and Roll Express was the one that presented me with it.
Yeah.
And I felt really good to get the reaction and response I did. And that's actually on my show, my podcast that will show later tonight. The Party with Marty. But this won't show till when? When's this show?
I'm gonna put this out probably next Friday, Marty, and then I'll give you a copy because
okay.
I talked about having it, or at least pieces of it, on your show.
Okay, and yeah, so I and that's where the whole Party with Marty, Party with Marty thing came in at the banquet. I told him, I said I appreciated fact. What did I do with it?
Yeah, you got it. You had it on. I think it was to your left. To your left.
I thought so too.
Had it.
I showed it to you, didn't I?
Yeah.
Oh, here it is.
Yeah.
This
there you go.
Here.
Yeah.
Nice. It was so nice. But I was showing him. I was saying, this is what I've done in the past. What I'm doing now is what I'm going to do in the future, and I want to be as good at that as I was at this. And that's with the podcast, the Party with Marty podcast, which we're doing good. I'm learning a lot from you too.
Yeah.
And getting better every week. And I want to be able to get to a point where when people, especially the younger generation, tune in, they learn something about the industry and about life. Because I mean, I've been seeing a lot in life.
Yep.
So if I can contribute now all my experiences through this platform here, I'd be honored to be able to do so. And that's what I'm going to strive towards. Of course, I have other projects in the works, but this one's going to be my little baby. This is the one where I can communicate with the people that I love and love me, and will give me a chance to listen to me.
Yeah. Well, I've got some surprises for you when we get off the air, because I've got a couple of things that I want to share with you where we could possibly do some stuff together there. We'll talk about that off the air. I'm not going to share that with the viewers just yet.
There'll be
but Marty, so stay on the line. We'll end this meeting. What a wonderful interview today, Marty. We got to learn a lot. Like I said, an inspiring career, humble guy, really, truly, just, from bottom of my heart, thank you for all your contributions. And yeah, we're going to be looking forward to all the good things that you can do with Party with Marty, and with this new platform that the world has now. This is the new business, I guess, to be in.
The way it is now.
It's the way it is now. So Marty, we'll say goodbye to the viewers and then we'll talk. So
all right, and I appreciate you, man. Thank you so much for the opportunity to be here with your people, with our people, I guess you would say.
Yep.
And I look forward to doing stuff with you in the future.
Amen. All right. So ladies and gentlemen, this has been Victoire. I am Emir. This is Marty Jannetty. Thank you for joining us, and we will see you again next time. Thank you for joining us today on another episode of Victoire. Today's guest was Marty Jannetty. Please be sure to subscribe to the channel, like, and share these videos. Until next time, victor what you must victor in your life. This has been Victoire.